All right. So thank you everyone for joining us today. My name is Felipe. I'm the CEO at MConf. And just before I introduce the speaker of the next session, I'd like to tell you that this session is being interpreted in Portuguese and Spanish thanks to our interpreters today, Victoria, Angela, Paula, and Maria. They are students in the final period of the interpreter training course at PUC Rio in Brazil. So many thanks to them, to PUC Rio, and to RNP, the Brazilian NRAN, for making that happen. You will see below the presentation the control to switch between audio channels. This is the original track, but you will find uh, there the interpreted tracks. Welcome everyone, and enjoy the event. Fred, back to you.
All right, it is my pleasure to introduce Steve Roots, who's the founder and creator of TLDRAW, a project which we have embedded into BigBlueButton now 2 years, getting on to 3 years. Steve's presentation is going to be about the roadmap and whatever he wants to share. So welcome to an Omagasi presentation from Steven. Over to you.
All right. Thank you, Fred. Let me share my screen so that you can see what I see. And there we go, right in the middle, right at the bottom. Cool. Can you see my screen?
Looks good.
Going to take that as yes. Awesome. Cool. Hello, I'm Steve Ruiz. I'm the founder and CEO of TLDRAW, which is a London-based startup that makes TLDRAW. It's a canvas. It's a website that you can go to, tldarw.com. It's a free whiteboard. But the thing that we sell, so to speak, is the TLDRAW SDK, and that is it's basically like a commodity version of the canvas, right? So this is something that anyone can put inside of their own product and have like a little canvas inside of whatever website you want. If you're technical, you might be surprised by the fact that everything on the canvas is just normal website stuff. So this is like, HTML and CSS. It's technically all React components on the canvas. That's very unusual. This is very much unlike things like Figma, Miro, etc. In that you can just put normal website stuff on the canvas. So I always have to do a YouTube link in a incognito browser in order to avoid leaking my terrible timeline. But there you go. Look, YouTube right on the canvas, and I can even draw on top of it, and there we go. Make some rose tinted sunglasses there, and it'll play too. So because it's just a normal website here on the canvas, so that gives us the ability to do a lot of interesting things, and it also gives developers who want to build stuff with the SDK, want to do custom things on the canvas, a lot of freedom to do whatever they want. If it works on a web page, you can do it on the canvas as well. So, like Fred said, we've been kind of inside of BigBlueButton for a couple of years now. So every year, I think I've done this talk about what's new in the SDK. Most of those features that Fred has are well, I mean, the majority of TLDRAW is not new. We've been doing this for a while. So everything from like little mini-map interactions to our APIs around styling and the user interface and all that stuff is pretty well established. But it is a long list of things that are in here. That said, there are a couple of new things. So I will I'll talk about those now. The big one that we worked on towards the end of last year was a bindings API. This is essentially the system by which multiple shapes can kind of interact with each other. Let me see if I have a good example here. Bindings, layout constraints. This is one of them. You could use bindings to do drag and drop, for example, parent, things that are done this way. And this is done not through some parent and child relationship, but through kind of a custom relationship between these two shapes, that we call a binding. Other stuff that you can do with bindings are like constraint systems. So let's say we had two shapes and we wanted to kind of pin them together a little bit. So put a pin here, move this around, that's fine. Put a pin here, move it around, and it'll move the other one as well. In fact, if you even rotate, it'll kind of rotate kind of like two pieces of cardboard with a pin stuck in it. And you can just kind of end up making these really bizarre little systems using these fairly simple way of defining relationships between multiple shapes. And that's very, very dynamic. So, now it's gone, now it's back. The way that we use shapes the most, I don't know what this one is, is through arrows. So in TLDRAW, I don't know, I've done my best to make it famous. So hopefully, famously, you can have arrows that connect different shapes together. And those arrows can be pretty detailed. So you can have the arrow go from a particular place within a shape or from the center of a shape. I think if you hold Option, you can even have it kind of visible, and instead of intersecting the shape, kind of be visible on the shape. You can also bend the arrow like this, which is very nice. And we have the SDK has a pretty advanced geometry system that will allow for some pretty complicated intersections between these arrows and the shapes themselves. So that is the place where we've used bindings the most. That was the original use case for bindings, but we're finding all sorts of new places to use it. This year, very new is a new type of arrow, is that we finally have these right angle style elbow arrows, which if you're doing kind of mind maps, if you're doing a lot of types of diagrams where you want to have control over this type of arrow shape. Now they're not as customizable as maybe arrows in Figma or Whimsical or these other apps where you can kind of create multiple segments and then have an arrow that kind of does this. I don't think you need it, frankly, but we're also looking at ways of adding more detail to these things. At the moment, you can change the edge that this binds to, and then you can also bind to, or kind of the corner. You can also bind to the specific edge as well. And those positions are normalized; they're preserved as you move the arrow around. And similar to our arrows before, they still work with these other shapes. But we did find a lot of kind of quirky new things with elbow arrows. For example, what happens if I rotate not just this shape, or maybe not just this shape, but also the shape, the arrow itself? What happens here? And sure enough, we keep it axis aligned to the shape that it's bound to, but that gives you a way of making these pretty unusual little arrow situations where you're rotating the arrow and the shape, and you can kind of combine these things in really nice ways. These, of course, take labels just like anything else. And yeah, you can watch these things kind of pop around as I rotate this. Whee! Kind of fun. Elbow arrows work with all the other systems that we have for design or styling, and we make sure to, just like everywhere else, always make sure to have that corner preserved so that we don't have missing corners. So we kind of massage the spacing between the dashes in order to keep that corner always have half a dash on it, just like we do with the corners of these rectangles. That's elbow arrows. The other really big one was rich text. Previously in TLDRAW, you had text, just like normal text, but you couldn't make text bold or italic or underlined or anything else. But now you can. Now we have this lovely little hovering, or I'm sorry, like contextual toolbar here that you can use to, make stuff highlighted, or, bold or italic, or code blocks, and add in, links inside of the text. And yeah, it works really well. It uses TipTap as the engine, and so this is kind of a long list of dependencies, but TipTap is a text editor built on top of ProseMirror. Both projects are done by teams in Berlin. Both projects are open source, and they have a huge library of extensions for, I don't know, if this highlighting style is like one of those extensions in TipTap, and you can add your own. Our SDK made TipTap a first-party citizen. You can just add your or first-class citizen. You can add those plugins for TipTap very, very easily into TLDRAW's real rich text editing as well. There's a whole lot of complexity around rich text in TLDRAW. I mean, we kind of took the opportunity when we were working on rich text to rethink some of the ways, like interactions around text as well. So now you can kind of, if you're editing text, you can click through into other shapes, into the text labels of other shapes. If you are, let's see, if you're copying and pasting, like we include those rich text styles onto the clipboard as well, and make sure that it always works the way that you want it to. So this is rich text. This was a big one. You can find it in, of course, the text shape. You can also find it in the note shape and anything that has a label. And you can, so like rectangular shapes, things like that. I believe the labels on arrows are not rich text, but that's probably for the best. I don't think we need it there, but we can add it. In fact, we have all the componentry around rich text is also exported, so SDK users can build with it. So that's rich text. It kind of feels strange to summarize it so quickly when it took months and months to work on, but it was one of the most common requests in TLDRAW. Now it's here. We also have it's not here, and maybe it shouldn't be. So you guys have to promise me you won't tell anyone, but we do have a couple of Easter eggs in TLDRAW that you might you can use to impress your friends and family. One of them is a fill, a secret type of fill. So with TLDRAW, we have, I'll just put this line kind of behind it so you can see something behind here. We have a couple of different types of ways of kind of styling the inside of shapes. We have the hollow shapes like this. We also have shapes filled with the color white. And we have a kind of a tinted type of shape. And then we have this like pattern type of shape as well. But a lot of folks are like, oh, what about like a completely black solid shape, the type of fill? It's not on the sidebar, but if you do press Option F, you can have your secret completely black or completely blue or whatever shape. Now you know. The other one that has come up a lot is like, hey, these colors are great, and it's even better now that I can have them solid color. But what about the color white? Why don't you have the color white there? I mean, technically we do if it's in dark mode, but you know what I mean. Secret shortcut number 2, if Alt F is for the special fill color. The other one is Alt T for white. So now you got Alt T to have white. Don't tell anyone I told you, but they're kind of like our secret Easter egg things. I'm sure they will quickly make their way to the sidebar, but that's something new in TLDRAW. We have a ton of accessibility features that have been added fairly recently. To give you the best thing, actually, there's a release going out today, but I'll go to my staging room in order to give a more up-to-date view on these features. Accessibility in TLDRAW, anything really on the canvas with accessibility is quite a hard problem to solve, because unlike pretty much every other document type on the internet, the Canvas has a ton of content that is off screen at any given time. You normally don't have that. It's also in two directions. It's spatial and it's not just like a single document that goes top to bottom, but it's all over the place. And so questions of like ordering and finding and replacing things can get really, really gnarly. And a lot of the, how do you read a canvas for a screen reader? Those questions are pretty much unanswered, even though we're starting to see some patterns around them in different apps like Miro and Figma and things like that. So in TLDRAW, we have added screen reader support. We've also added support for like extensive keyboard shortcut navigation throughout our UI, so that you can kind of tab around through different projects. You can also tab around within the canvas between different shapes. And we have a nice little algorithm to determine which one comes next. And I believe we also have, let's see, hang on a second. Do we? Yeah. Oh, yeah. We even have shortcuts to move from the canvas to the style panel and back by pressing, I believe it's Command Enter. Yeah. So if I did want to do this without ever touching my mouse, I could do that, either changing color or changing text, and kind of get my way around the canvas without having to touch the keyboard. We're actually in the middle of doing an accessibility review right now with an external expert in this. It's something that I think is really important, just as like for products, but especially for TLDRAW, because we have that unusual kind of ability to not only solve things for like TLDRAW.com, which is what we're looking at right now, but also for if this is our SDK, for all of the other products like BigBlueButton that are using our TLDRAW SDK. And if we can improve accessibility in TLDRAW's canvas, that means Fred will get it for free, and well, as close to free as possible without any additional work, and as well as everyone else. So that's pretty exciting for us. So back to my notes, if I can find them. Talked about accessibility. There's also a lot of internationalization work that we've gone on. So TLDRAW is translated into, I think it was like 38 different languages. And I know we have Portuguese on the line. The question is it European Portuguese or Brazilian? I'm going to have to say Brazilian. And so we work with an external service to update all of our like user interface, all of our little like menu names and things like that. And we do that for, we also take a lot of contributions from the community for these things. So, we've had languages here that have been submitted by just people who, have seen our GitHub, where we have all the source code for this canvas, and, have just added additional languages that way. So I think we have a couple of different types of, let's see, what's the one that's slightly different? Of course, Portuguese has Brazilian and European, but I think there are also some kind of like fine differences of between some of these languages as well, which are like, like Galician. Not many apps would have a Galician translation, but we have that here. So yeah, I'll let your community dig in, and I think we do have pretty good like right to left support, but probably not great. So we're still have some work to do with RTL. But it is something that we're continuing to invest in. It's now also much more automated, which is great, so that every release kind of goes to our translators and gets done that way. Finally, really like the thing that is like kind of a through line for all of TLDRAW has been just endless amounts of like tiny bug fixes, improvements, and just these like quality of life things, which hopefully using BigBlueButton you get to benefit from, and that you notice even in its absence. These are these little tiny features that kind of just add up to a good product experience, good Canvas experience. And that hopefully if you've used a couple of these types of applications, you can tell the difference. I certainly can. And even before I started working on TLDRAW, I would find these little places of frustrations where I'd be running into the sharp corners of a product. One of these, and this is going to be solved in about 20 minutes when we release this week's version of the TLDRAW Canvas. It has to do with images and frames. A lot to do with frames. So frames can have content put inside of them, and then that content kind of moves as a child of the frame. And if you resize the frame such that the geometry of an object falls outside of the frame, then that object no longer is the child of the frame. It kind of like just falls out. It's like the container changed size, and the thing just kind of fell out of it. With images, the geometry of an image is its outside edge, right? It's like, these 4 points. And as a result, what we had was like people were putting these images into frames, and the image would fall out of the frame because its edges were outside of the frame. And that's not what you want. You would have expected it to kind of stay inside of the frame like that. But it was falling out by accident. So in the this week's bug fix for TLDRAW is that no longer happens. And actually that whole system of how things fall out of frames is much improved. For example, if you had 2 frames and one of them had a shape inside of it, and that shape or that frame was resized thus that the shape would fall out of the frame, well, now it falls into another frame if that one's behind it. So a little bit of like, the joy of working on a canvas like this is that there is unusual in software. There's kind of an intuition on how these features should work. And this is one of those things where if it didn't work this way, and right now in TLDRAW.com it doesn't, but it will in very, very short order work that way. It just kind of feels like wrong, it should be inside of this thing, right? Yeah. Those types of things go on and on and on forever, and that's sort of the long tail of working on TLDRAW is saying, okay, well, what happens if there are, thousands and thousands of shapes on the canvas, and we're resizing them, and like, is that performance good enough, and is that what we want to happen, and if not, how can we make it better? And it's an endless. See if I should be faster on the Canary. Performance is always the riskiest thing to live demo because you might get it wrong, and then now I'm embarrassed. But let's see, we'll see. Got it. Yeah, it's a little bit better than last week anyway. So that's the kind of like the long what's new in TLDRAW, which is like of course endless like performance, user experience fixes, which go on forever, but keeping something this big, this feeling this good is an endless challenge. So that's what we do. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's really, really unusually new in TLDRAW. It depends on what we talked about last year, but we do have a fairly good sticky note system now, where you can create new sticky notes in a certain direction. You can also drag sticky notes that kind of click together. I don't know if you've seen this before. We have as well the ability to kind of adjust the size of the how do you say that? The font size of a sticky note will change depending on the contents of the sticky note. So like I love living in the city of Amsterdam, but I have too many M's here. So we're gonna, rather than like wrapping that around, we just make a kind of a small adjustment to the font size in order to fit more text in there. Now that's different than how we handle long text. We just make the sticky note bigger, but in this case, we are able to just kind of keep it from wrapping in a way that doesn't make sense. And yeah, these things are all, there's of course little rotation nuance. So if you have things with common rotation, those will click together. But if you had one with a different rotation, then it won't click next to it. But if you're dragging multiple ones and your cursor is inside of the one that's rotated next to like the other one, then it will click into each other. So there's a lot of kind of like little joy in how these systems work. Again, I'm not sure if this was presented last time, but the new sticky notes are quite nice. Even that little shadow changes just slightly as the shadow rotates. So that is darker when it's pointing down than it is when it's pointing up. I don't know if that makes sense.
Steve, I have to say, this is amazing. We're coming up, 25 minutes went by so friggin' quickly. I think you fill our well because there's common cause with us trying to fix everything we can in BigBlueButton. We put out each release every 2 weeks, seems the pace now. They just have all these bug fixes. So looking at you and seeing what you're doing with TLDRAW, it just feels really good. Just know how much you obsess over it. Look, folks can stay around. From Steve, I don't know if you have a minute or two. We've got 3 minutes left. Is there any one question that you'd like to ask TLDRAW? Okay, Ali Hadri, latex. I don't know if you had any.
Yeah, we haven't started working on latex, although we have started working on MathJax as like an input language. MathJax is like another layout language or markup. I'm not sure exactly how you define that, but that's just for mathematical expressions. A bunch of our customers have built that themselves, and it just makes a ton of sense for us to provide that as a kind of a plugin or something that folks can use as well. Latex would be good. We haven't looked at it, but yeah, all those different input methods are like, I see them in customer projects, and I see people rebuilding them again and again. So it would be good for us to build that or have something for people to use instead.
Awesome. All right, I want everyone to just give a big thanks to Steve. Give us some emojis, some thanks in the chat. The next session starts in 2 minutes, so please come on over. I'll put a link to it. Steve, thank you again. It's just always great to drink from the well of TLDRAW and see what you're doing. So,
of course, thank you for inviting me.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you in the next session.
Bye.